Let's finish this. Hello there, I'm Greg, and today I'm finishing off my Ghostbusters uniform. Let's skip the lengthy preamble and get this thing done. Here is a bit that I cut from my already quite long enough Ecto Goggles video. I put beige flight suit into eBay and found an extra large one. It's massive, but I found it and it was like 23 quid, which is great. Some heavy duty black gloves, which you just tuck under the belt, an accurate but wrong coloured belt and some grey fabric dye, key fobs to go on the belt, some nicely sized patches and one of my name, some mixed martial arts knee pads, which are the elbow pads you need, and I've got some very old falling apart brown walking boots and some black leather paint. So there's the to-do list of things that need to do. So yeah, we're going to go through them hastily, but hopefully very informatively. And here it comes now. Let's do a diagonal one. The belt. You can buy a much cheaper military canvas belt that only has 2 holes, or you can spend a bit more and get one with the proper 3 holes in, but this one is white, it should be pale grey. So I've bought some RIT pale grey dye. I like how the instructions are on the inside of the box. Different materials, some you have to add vinegar, some you have to add salt. This one requires salt because it's cotton. A load of hot water, dissolve it in there, spoonful of dish soap, washing up liquid, and then you can do a kitchen roll test. Take a piece of white kitchen paper and test the colour. I think I could have used half the dye, but this pale grey, what a creep, but this pale grey dye is a great way of getting a dark purple belt. This was quite fun, smelt nice, and it's fine because I'm going to dry brush a slightly paler grey over it. So I just hung it to drip dry. It's a nice grey, but I think I could have used half as much, and it wouldn't have come out so purple. However, this dry brushing with a warm grey, just some white and black and a little bit of yellow ochre to make it a warm military type grey, brings out the texture of the belt. So I really like this. And then rather than paint round the eyelets, paint over them and clean them up with a cotton bud. So that's the back. I swear in real life it looks purple, but it's grey now. Fobs. Fobs. This is a bag of dog belts and dog belts. This is a bag of belts, dog collars and lanyards. I can't believe I'm cutting up my old fancy dress, pilot leather hat, but it had the right size D hooks on it. D rings? D rings. Best way of opening these, didn't film it very well, but 2 pairs of pliers and twist. Just twist. Put the hook through there and twist it closed again. So there are 3 key fobs, belt fobs, on the belt. I had 2 black ones and then just needed 1 brown one. This is the black leather paint with which I'm going to paint my brown shoes. These are the big hop fasteners that I put around my Ecto Goggles. So I had the fasteners, but I didn't actually have the press fastener tool. The little metal rod that you hammer to shut them. I've got that for rivets, but it turns out I don't actually have it for press fasteners. I have the talent, but I don't have the tool. So what I'm doing is pushing the button through, splitting the back in a cross with my Stanley knife, and then sort of flattening those 4 quite sharp tabs with a screwdriver, which I thought was quite clever. Bit of super glue front and back, and then because those tabs on the back are quite sharp, just cover them with super glue and baking soda, and then a flat layer of hot glue. So they're not beautiful on the back, they're not pretty. And of course they don't come apart. You can't just unbutton them, put them over the belt and button them again. But it's fine because it looks like there's a fastener on there. Boots! Booties. Those boots were made for walking. Well, years ago they were made for walking, but they fell apart. And I kept them, and I'm very glad I did. I do have somewhere some high ankle, steel toe cap, black Doc Martens. Where are they? You tell me. You there. I'm relying on you to tell me where are my black Doc Martens. It doesn't matter, because I kept these old, incredibly falling apart brown hiking boots. So old there is actual verdigris around the lace eyelets. So as you just saw, because they are very holy underneath, they're certainly not watertight, so here's hoping that the Comic-Con that I've been accepted to, that I'm going to in November, will be nice dry sunny weather, which it won't. But I've lined them with furry insoles to make them slightly more comfortable. And now I'm just wiping off the dust of 40,000 years, all that greasy fudge, and covering them in black leather paint, which goes on like butter. It's lovely stuff. and then just, if it's a bit brush strokey, just stipple it on and you get a nice leather texture, very shiny, very hard wearing, and I like it. Laces, here's my big bag of shoelaces. I myself on my shoes favour a ribbon, a tape style lace, but that wouldn't be screen accurate. These are in fact very screen accurate, because if you look at the Harold Ramis boot the prop store sold, one of my reference photos, you can actually tell that they are brown laces that have been crudely semi-dyed black. These boots will do, and they're quite comfy with the furry insoles. Walkie Talkie! This is my new favourite way to make a prop, is make a one-to-one printout of that thing, so you can just compare it to a piece of paper. I'm doing it on my next build this month, which I'm really looking forward to. So I thought, well, we may as well make a walkie-talkie, because that Motorola walkie-talkie is a black brick with 3 buttons on top. I wonder if it's roughly the size of 3 of these Duplo knockoff building blocks, and it was. I am satisfied, I am delighted. This was fun and quite easy. Thickening it up with a piece of that ice cream sign you've seen me use before. Then Queen City Minis, the brilliant miniaturist, taught me if you don't want to use glue, just use double-sided carpet tape. It'll do. So here I'm just thickening it up and also making a nice flat front. And because I want to put the buttons and the aerial in the top with wood screws, I've got 2 bits of squared owl. So there's a block of wood at the top for screwing bits into. There's a nice brick wrapped in black cardboard, just to give it a smooth skin. If you want reference for a prop, do find if someone else has done the work for you and done a 3D model of that thing. And I found these images online, made them into line drawings in Photoshop, printed them out, and yeah, it's lovely to have some one-to-one reference. So here for the mouth plate, the speaker part, I'm using another bit of that ice cream sign, which is expanded UPVC or expanded polystyrene. It's that lovely soft plastic. Like whittling a spoon, I'm just going to cut these bevels by hand and then sand them with a sanding stick. Because the bottom has a slight scoop to it, I put some sanding paper tape on an old piece of broom handle so that the sanding tool I'm using actually has a curve. Whether that shows up in the final thing, but I know it's there. I know the curve's there. And that's fun. The speaker slots. So cut out the bit of speaker, because once you've got your template you can cut it into little template parts, components. So I just taped it to some black styrene and cut out the slots. Then to fill in the parts that go back into those slots, you could take those strips of plastic you've just cut out, cut say 1 or 2 millimeters off the length and the width and stick them back in. But I thought, I wonder if cable ties are the solution to all life's problems like they usually are. And they are, because they're a pre-cut strip that just has a slight bevel, and they're a bit more dimensional than a flat strip. Countersinking screws, always a joy, as long as you countersink in the right place. I have trust issues when it comes to adhesives, so I wanted to screw this plate on somewhere rather than just attaching it with glue. Probably didn't need to. And also, because these 2 screws, I thought I was being clever, because they're going to be hidden by the Motorola sticker, but because the sticker is just paper, you can see 2 little dips. So in the end I took the Motorola sticker back off, filled over those screws with some Milliput, and then put a fresh sticker back on. This is the side key plate, a bit of white styrene plastic and some High School Musical board game cut into some shapes. And then, because it needs to have a sort of silver metal trench or trough or indent all the way around the outside, I've put black styrene on the back, and again for that front edge, so it's not just a hard rectangle of styrene, I'm using a cable tie, because it's about the right width. It's screen... what is it? It's screen appropriate whilst not being screen accurate. Texture, this is probably over texture. What you want is a sort of leathery texture, but all I had to do was just stipple that super glue with a sponge before I put on the baking soda. And it wouldn't have had quite such a scraped around with a gomja bar pattern to it. So yes, overdid it a bit. If I just at this stage, just like that, just hit it with a sponge before you put on the baking soda, it will be a subtler texture. Just covering that with some Mars Black paint and some Mod Podge, so it will have a consistent skin all over, but also as it dries here, just stipple it with your pastry brush, your rough cheapo brush, and I'm just trying to make the texture a little bit finer, a bit more high res. So while adding on that texture, I put masking tape around the outside for the silver indent bit so that it wouldn't get textured. These screws, these self-countersinking screw peg things are great. They're my new favourite go-to connector because they're just a screw with a peg built into it, so they're a great way of attaching things at a right angle. Realised that these felt pen lids had a lovely transition of plain to with lines on, like the knobs on the original prop, and they fit exactly over these pegs and sand it smooth. This build went very well. Pretty much everything I thought of worked. Coloured them in silver with a metallic pen, and then that is the Walkie Talkie primed black. Before I just use aluminium silver tape to do the metal indent around the outside, I'm drilling in 3 holes for my buttons. There are 2 black screws on the top, and then there's the aerial at the back. And this stuff, you know, if you get it on neat and just smooth it out, it's a very satisfying way to chrome something, because it really sticks on there. You see the knob on the right there, I did screw it too tightly and it just started to rip the tape. You won't have spotted that, but I've pointed it out to you now, because we don't do shame here. We're honest about our mistakes. Don't make the mistakes I did. Large cable ties. Cable ties, again, the solution. Because these big cable ties have a lovely lined texture which pretty much matches the sides of this vintage walkie-talkie, but isn't quite wide enough. That's why I did the strip of silver tape, then coloured in these with, I used my Halford's chrome spray paint for these, and then I'm just super gluing it down the silver band. This bit of plastic got a bit chewed up, but there's just a panel of plastic on the side with 7 holes in it and a screw, but the silver shows through those holes, and then that black button on the side is just again a bit of giant cable tie, but coloured in black, not silver. So it really is Duplo blocks, cardboard, cable ties and felt pen lids. And I'm proud of how accurate it looks. Then this is a Motorola sticker, printed on sort of semi-gloss satiny paper and laminated with a bit of sellotape. Stuck on with dots of both superglue and PVA. PVA is a bit more grippy with paper and card. Then these, to cover the screws on top of the 3 buttons, I just found some drawing pins that were the right size, snipped off the pin, superglued, coloured in with a silver pen. And then this, again, proud, very screen accurate aerial made out of a blue felt pen lid, a dog poop bag tube, and another bit of pen lid that just all slot together, pressure fit. And then here I'm covering them in black heat shrink, shrinking it tight with a heat gun. And then finally, because it's much shinier on the prop, I just hit that aerial with some gloss lacquer, just some clear spray lacquer, so it's shiny. And that's your walkie-talkie done. The Holsters. Sounds like a sitcom about a family of cowboys.
The Holsters is filmed for a live studio audience.
Anyway, so this is some vinyl leather stuff I got from Scrap. Hi Scrap, love you. This template for the belt gizmo holster again came from Jairus Whitley on the Replica Prop forum. So the size it was matched the belt gizmo I've made, so that made it just very easy. However, the leather you use is supposed to be thick, like biker boot leather, like horse saddle thick, 5 or 6 mil thick leather. And this is floppy vinyl. So I'm backing it with all sorts of sticky things. Backs don't matter. So that's a bit of black styrene that I've stuck on with some carpet tape. This is a bit of self-adhesive black foam. Just thickening up and trying to reduce the floppification. Here for my walkie-talkie, because I wasn't sure it was exactly the right size and I couldn't find any template plans anyway, I just figured it out with a piece of paper. There are my measurements. I don't do vector illustrations, so if you want my plans, there they are. If you want my plans, come and get them. It basically goes all the way up the back of the walkie-talkie and then folds in like a nappy. And I'm just using my paper template there to start the folds into the leather. Go to sleep. It's a papoose for my baby talkie. So there I've stuck a bit of leather vinyl on the back as well, because you can kind of see in, so it's leather texture on both sides. and put a panel of, again, self-adhesive black EVA foam just under the back half of the walkie-talkie, because I don't want it to be too loose in there. I want it to be kind of gripped. So if I jig around whilst busting ghosts, my walkie-talkie will remain snug. But it was very flaccid. So if you held it like that on the back, the walkie-talkie went fully, obviously it'd be resting against my leg, but it was really floppy. So again, because backs don't matter, I've just put a strip of black styrene up the back to give it some backbone. And then those press studs, because as I said before, I don't actually have the press fastener tool to properly attach buttons. It's coming in the post, I just haven't got it yet. So those are held on with super glue. And here I'm going over everything with some matte black enamel paint to stop it being so shiny. Elbow pads. These are pretty screen accurate elbow pads. On American websites they say that they're volleyball knee pads. I found them as mixed martial art knee pads, you know, when I was at my dojo. The only thing you have to do is trim down the sides, a little bit of a curve on the inside, just a straight line under the pad on the outside. This is very synthetic material. I basically run a flame over the edge of any material now because I enjoy it. So I've set fire to a few things. If it doesn't melt, then it's quite organic material. You really shouldn't run a flame over it, but mostly these are very plasticky, polyestery, so a flame will help stop that edge from fraying. Although if you look at the original elbow pads though, that edge is very frayed, so there's no pressure to be tidy with this. And then the inner elbow hole is covered with a black panel. Of course the black bit is painted on for Ghostbusters 2, obviously. I know you're shouting it at the screen. So I'm just using a little rectangle of the thick black elastic that I used on the back of my Ecto goggles. So as I said before, this is a massive beige flight suit that I got on eBay, but we're going to do some adjustments, or my wife is going to help me make some adjustments to it. This is my Johnson Ghostbusters patch that she bought me ages and ages ago, which has been waiting to be attached. The iron-on backing didn't really work. Whether the iron wasn't hot enough, or I didn't press for long enough, or it tacked it on there. I was going to stitch it on anyway, because it's more screen accurate, it just looks nicer. The sewing was nice, I've enjoyed the sewing. Colour in your zips with a gold pen. And they look, I mean it's more screen accurate, but also the whole suit looks a little bit more quality and a little bit more vintage. Very glad I did that. So yeah, as I say, okay, it's an extra large suit, but extra large people don't have 5 foot long arms. I mean, the sleeves are like a foot too long. You know? So, for that sleeve there's a pocket, so the cut in the sleeve is going to be there, and then lift that up and sew it around the elbow, which will be hidden under the elbow pads anyway. And for the other arm, I'm getting these wrong because I'm in a mirror, and for the other arm we're going to cut it off and reattach it at the shoulder. Huge thanks to my wife for giving up her Monday evening. It didn't go super smoothly. It's very easy to sew on the bottom half of the sleeve, inside out, for example, and then you have to unpick it and do it again. Slightly frightened of sewing machines. It seems so complicated to me, but this hand stitching I've really enjoyed. I learnt sewing when I was a kid, and embroidery as well, with my granny, and we did it at school. I made an embroidered pencil case. For the patch, I recommend using an embroidery ring like this because it just holds it taut and stops you accidentally sewing through the back of the sleeve or putting the needle through some loose material. Red stitches around the outside, little rough black stitches on the head and fingers. It's messy, but it's screen accurate. Leg hose connector. The leg hose connector. I'm doing the connector, I'm not doing the hose. There is a clear yellow hose that comes out from very near the Ghostbusters groins and goes behind them. It's clearly a weeing yourself joke prop thing. Catheter, I think is the word. But the connector should be attached to your leg. So this isn't super screen accurate, but it's another lampshade holding ring with one of the lenses from my Ecto goggles. Nice to reuse that in a different place. Put through it, and then just an orange disc from my Round Things collection. I primed it an off-white, like an ice creamy colour, but then realised that really shade-wise it should be darker than the flight suit. So I dry brushed it with, again, a warm grey, so grey with a little bit of yellow ochre in it. And then for the first time I'm using some Agrax Earthshade. Regular Dark Matter Workshop up in here. I need to get some lead belcher and flesh wash. It's oily, runs into all the gaps, thanks to my local gaming shop. I'll be back. This leg hose connector is held on with multiple threads through the holes on the outside of it. So I thought, well, I wonder if you put the thread through the needle about 4 times, you can pull 4 threads through at a time. This is a thing I forgot to film. I stuck a circle of EVA foam on the back of it because it's a hard plastic thing against my leg. So I thought, let's pad it a bit. On the original costume, this was made out of latex. It's a rubber casting. So if you fall on it, it will be like falling on your keys. It'll really hurt your thigh when you're out busting. Foam on the back, stitch it on, looking nice. Weathering, we must be in the home stretch. Carl Weathers, but his mum does his washing. R.I.P. Carl Weathers. So dust, you know I love dust. Chalk pastels, brown, grey, bit of black, because these boots are almost silver, they're so shiny. And this just makes things instantly old. The matte black paint has dried on the holsters so they're not so shiny, and then a bit of dust, if you put on way too much, for example, which I very deliberately did there, just wipe it with a damp rag. So there you can see the back, that's shiny, and there is the finished buffed and aged leather. A pretty heavy... I'd rather overdo weathering than underdo it, because it takes time and effort, and you don't want time and effort to go unnoticed. So these are some grimy elbow pads. A lot of filth on the inner arm. These 3 ovals, it's nice to kind of shade them out and just make them look a bit more cartoony. So just with a very, very dry brush, just really scraping around the edge and through those 2 seams in the middle. Then dirtying up the flight suit. I think this ends up looking kind of great. It's a bit like it's been airbrushed, but also with speckles, so it looks slightly mouldy or something. But I've been worried it looks cheap and plain, and now I've done this, I really like how this looks. So just going along all the seams to give it some dark shape. And then I remembered that at school we used to seal pastel drawings with hairspray. So I don't know if this works on clothes, but so I'm not just covered in sooty smuts and getting it all over the furniture. Not that I'll be wearing this to any, tea parties or anything, but yeah, I thought, I wonder if I can seal it with hairspray. So my flight suit stinks of hairspray. Grey and black and brown, up and down the seams and zips. And I do believe the job is done. Awesome, it's nice to dress as a Ghostbuster. It just is. Thank you to my mother-in-law, hello Irene, I know you're watching, for giving us some thread that was the right colour. And also pre-thank you, because if, when it comes to November, I decide I do need to make the legs of this uniform shorter, because I want to wear them outside the boot in the Venkman style rather than tucked in a la Stanson, Spengler and Zedmore, I will need your help with that too. Basically cut the legs off, cut some off and then put the legs back on, and that feels like a big job. But find out in November if you come to Thought Bubble in Harrogate, I will be dressed like this. Stylish. Today's YouTube channel recommendation is Alison Tabitha. Very inspiring cosplayer, does amazing makeup transformations, basically changes her entire skull and appearance just using, shading and contouring and stuff, and turns herself into different people, and makes amazing costumes as well, using very accessible and simple techniques, but inspiring stuff. I recommend that channel. We're going to move on from Ghostbusters this month. Different sci-fi franchise coming up I'm excited about, and then possibly a collab. Did someone say collab? Ooh, yes, I did, and the person I'm going to collab with said it too. So we're going to do one, and I'm excited. I'm thinking a lot about the thing I'm going to make. And I've got a lovely Lovecraftian idea, just lots of ideas, lots to do, keeping busy. You never get to the end of your to-do list, You've got to have more ideas than life to do them in. Everybody dies frustrated and sad, and that is beautiful. What band is that lyrics from? What and said that lyrics. Thanks very much for watching, lots of love from me, I'll see you very soon, and here are some on-screen thanks to my genuinely beloved and much appreciated patrons. Goodbye. Where are they? They're down there.
When the fruit of your loins gets a real deep voice, or makes a weird pig noise, call a priest. And if a head spins round, all the way around, that's too far round, call a priest. When your sweet 13 has a good blaspheme and she's bringing up green, it's a messed up scene. When it ain't no fun, cause she talks in tongues and insults your mum, got a problem, chum. When the air's all cold round your 12-year-old and she looks like death and she F's and J's,